Have you ever shared a small secret with someone you trusted? Someone who stood close to you, spoke kindly, and later you wished you had stayed silent because one simple sentence changed everything in your life. We like to believe that the people who smile with us are safe, that the people who listen to us care, that the ones beside us will guard our words the way we would guard theirs. But sometimes the closest ears are the most careless. And sometimes the warmest smile belongs to someone who loves attention more than truth. This is the story of how one tired man learned that lesson. Too late. Before the rumor d'Irdol, there was a small happy moment. Daniel sat at the kitchen table while his son, Tyler, drew a boat with a crooked sail. Tyler pushed the paper toward him like it was treasure. Daniel smiled, genuinely. "That's a good one," he said. "One day we'll do it for real. Just you and me. We'll take a little boat out past the docks to where the water is actually blue." Tyler's eyes lit up. "The real ocean?" "The real ocean," Daniel promised. Daniel worked at a shipyard warehouse in a coastal town where the air tasted like salt and diesel. For 8 years, he'd moved steel parts and sealed crates under harsh lights. He woke before sunrise, washed his face with cold water, and pulled on a faded jacket that always carried the smell of oil. He wasn't the loud guy at work. He was the steady one. Early, reliable, quiet. At home, he was softer. He helped Tyler with homework. He listened more than he spoke. And he kept a jar on a high cabinet shelf where he dropped spare change and folded bills whenever he could. It wasn't for anything big. Just a small boat trip. One day. A simple promise. And late at night, when the apartment finally went quiet, Daniel did something he never told anyone about. He sketched in a cheap notebook little drawings of boats on open water, a father and son on a calm horizon. He wasn't an artist. He was simply a man trying to remember that life could be more than work. At the warehouse, Daniel trusted his coworkers because he saw them every day, shared breaks with them, carried weight beside them. One of them was Ryan. Friendly, talkative, always asking about Tyler, always laughing, always smiling like he cared. Over time, Daniel started to believe Ryan was safe, but inside Daniel's body, something was slowly breaking. The work was heavy, and lately his strength didn't feel the same. By afternoon, his legs felt weak. His back burned with a deep, stubborn pain that lingered even when he sat. Still, Daniel felt no anger. He didn't blame the warehouse. He didn't resent his boss. He only wanted one lighter day, just enough to recover. One evening after a brutal shift, Daniel and Ryan walked out together. The sun was low over the docks, and the wind smelled like salt and oil. Near the gate, Daniel paused and took a slow breath, like he was crossing an invisible line inside himself. In a quiet voice, he admitted, "My bones are aching. Loading has grown too hard on my back. And maybe, just maybe, I'll ask the supervisor for lighter duty for one day." He never mentioned quitting. No resentment toward the job slipped out. No one else was pulled into the conversation, only honesty and tired hope. Ryan nodded and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I get it," he replied. "Everyone gets tired." For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt lighter, because being heard felt like relief. He believed he'd shared his burden with a friend. What Daniel didn't know was that Ryan loved being the person with news, loved the feeling of people leaning in. The next morning during break, near the coffee and vending machines, Ryan leaned close to another worker and spoke in a low voice. He claimed Daniel was unhappy, that Daniel couldn't handle the work anymore. The other worker frowned. So he's leaving? Ryan shrugged like it was obvious. Maybe. Sounds like he's fed up. And with those small changes, the truth began to bend. Tiredness became unhappiness. A request for one lighter day became a plan to quit. By lunch, Daniel's name was moving through the warehouse faster than any forklift. And here's the moment Ryan could have stopped it. Ryan overheard someone say, "Daniel's trying to turn people against the place." Ryan knew that wasn't true. He knew exactly what Daniel had said, but he stayed silent. Instead, he gave a half smile and added, "He told me he can't take it anymore." That single sentence poured gasoline on the rumor. By the end of the day, the story no longer belonged to Daniel. By the next morning, the rumor had grown beyond control, moving faster than Daniel's tired body ever could. One worker claimed Daniel was quitting. Another said he was spreading negativity. A floor lead heard he was becoming a problem, someone who might drag others down. Worried about his own position, the lead passed the fear upward. The words twisted again as they climbed. By the time it reached the shift supervisor, it wasn't about a tired back anymore. Now it sounded like Daniel was turning workers against the warehouse. No one paused to ask Daniel what he actually said, because rumors are easier than truth. Soon it reached Mr. Caldwell, the owner, a proud man who valued loyalty and hated surprises. Lately, he'd been stressed about delays, costs, and keeping workers in line. So when he heard the story, all he understood was this: Daniel was a threat, a man who might leave and convince others to follow. Instead of seeing a tired worker, Caldwell imagined rebellion and loss, and in anger, he decided an example had to be made quickly. The next morning, Daniel arrived like always. He greeted the guard, he punched in, he reached for his gloves. He had no idea his life was about to split in two. Before he could reach his work area, 2 security guards stopped him and told him to come with them. Inside a small office, Daniel was accused of betrayal, of spreading negativity, of planning to damage the warehouse. He tried to explain calmly. He repeated that he had only asked for lighter duty for one day. He insisted he never told anyone to quit. He stressed he wasn't angry, just tired. But the decision was already made. Daniel was fired on the spot. His final pay was placed on the table like a cold ending. And quietly, without any official announcement, his name became a warning. Nearby warehouses heard, "Don't hire him." Doors closed before he could speak. When Daniel walked out through the gate he'd passed for years, the air hit him with the smell of salt and oil. Behind him, whispers followed like shadows. In the days that followed, the story grew uglier. People claimed Daniel was stealing, dangerous, untrustworthy. Everywhere he sought work, interviews ended early. Some didn't even let him speak. At home, the contrast was brutal. One evening, Tyler sat at the kitchen table drawing another boat. The same crooked sail, the same hope. "Dad," he asked softly, "when are we going to the real ocean?" Daniel stared at the paper like it was untouchable. His mouth opened, then closed. Words failed him. How could he explain that his name had been dragged through the dirt by people who never asked for the truth? Emma watched him grow quieter each day. Bills piled up. The jar stopped filling. The dream began to feel like something he never should have promised. After too many sleepless nights, Daniel made a quiet decision. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. One early morning before the town woke, he packed a small bag. He didn't wake Tyler. He simply stood by his bed, listening to his breathing, and kissed his forehead. Then he tore one page from his notebook, the simple drawing of a boat on open water. Under it he wrote, "One day you'll see the real ocean, even if I'm not there yet." He left it on the kitchen table and walked away to a place where his name was still clean. Weeks later at the warehouse, a manager reviewed old security footage for an unrelated issue. On screen, Daniel in his final days, working like always. No meetings, no anger, just quiet labor. The manager felt a heavy truth settle in his chest. He asked Ryan what Daniel had really said. Ryan hesitated, then admitted, Daniel was tired. He asked for lighter duty for one day. When the truth reached Mr. Caldwell, it landed like a weight. He walked to Daniel's old spot on the floor. For a moment, the warehouse felt different, because he was finally listening. He noticed worn gloves in Lost and Found. He picked them up like they mattered. Then he saw it. A small drawing pinned to the bulletin board. A child's boat. Crooked sail. The kind of picture a father keeps because it's love. Caldwell's throat tightened. He had fired a good man over a story no one checked. He had broken a family, psych, without ever looking him in the eye. Ryan offered to fix it, to call, to explain. Too late. Daniel was gone. The truth, when it finally came, couldn't bring him back to that table, couldn't restore the laughter, couldn't refill the jar, couldn't return to Tyler, the father who believed promises were safe. Daniel never learned the truth surfaced. Maybe that's the hardest part. Truth arrives the way it often does, late, quiet, powerless. It couldn't undo the damage, silence the whispers, or rewind the moment a confession became a weapon. And sometimes the worst betrayal isn't the rumor. It's the silence of the one who could have stopped it and chose not to. So the question isn't only who you trust, it's this. When you hear a story about someone, will you repeat it or ask for the truth before a life breaks? If this story touched you, share it with a friend. Let them hear it too. And subscribe for more real-life lessons.